Hello, 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 YouTube world. It's Miss Patty with For Your CNA with our live question and answer session that we do each week. Excuse me. This is where we answer all of your questions on CNA training and testing and workplace and all of those things. And I'd like to welcome you. If you're new, make sure that you drop us a comment so we can welcome you. If you've been with us before, welcome back. I'm so excited to be here. So I actually have been working on a new format for this, and I'm really kind of excited to get this a little bit more streamlined and organized, and kind of put my thoughts in a logical order. I'm scattered everywhere. I mean, if you could see my office, guys, I'm scattered everywhere, but I do like things to be organized so I kind of know what I'm doing. And this is what I've come up with. So I want to share this with you before we jump into today's lesson. So most months have 4 weeks in them, right? So I'm going to be I'm here every Thursday. So I'm going to be doing lessons in a very predictable order now. Some months have 5, and that's going to be kind of a bonus lesson. But the first Thursday of every month, we're going to explore a condition. Things like strokes or Alzheimer's, or what is diabetes, demystifying pneumonia, those types of things. The second Thursday, I'm going to spotlight a workplace. We already went over hospitals, but what about nursing homes and assisted living facilities and rehab centers and mental health, and even jails and prisons? What's it like to work there as a CNA? So we're going to be focusing on workplaces the second Thursday of each month. The third Thursday, it's all about the patient. So we're going to be looking at things like dignity and privacy and confidentiality, advanced directives. What do our patients expect from us? So they're going to be topics related to the patient. And then the fourth Thursday, or in most cases, the last Thursday of the month, we're going to focus on nursing basics. And that's what we're doing today. So today's lesson is on nutrition, which is a nursing basic. And we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. But from now on, we're going to have this a little bit more organized method of delivering instruction. And this is all leading up to, because there's always a method to my madness, right? This is all leading up to the ability to be able to give you guys in-service credit for watching and participating in the live. So if I have these in a little bit more organized manner, and we populate them out for the next 6 months, then that's just one step closer to being able to give you in-service credit just for showing up and participating in our live lessons. So isn't that exciting? We're working toward it. Not quite there yet. We are working toward it, but we're super excited to be able to offer all this to you. So that will be the new schedule starting today, actually. The first Thursday of the month, we're going to explore a condition. The second, we're going to explore a workplace. The third, we're going to learn about a topic related to the patient. And then the fourth is all about nursing basics. So I hope you'll join us each week because we've got some really, really exciting lessons planned. So I put a lot of time into these lives because it's a good opportunity to give information that you may not have gotten in your CNA training, because there's just so much that's being thrown at you all at once. And you're focused on the test, and you're focused on learning what you need to learn to be able to pass the test. And your focus is a little bit different in CNA training. And then once you get out there in the workplace, you start looking around and you think, oh, I really don't remember that from training, or we didn't go over that very much in training, or a lot of your education is going to be on the job education. The CNA training that you take, and just like the CNA training I offer, it's only going to get you so far. You're going to learn a whole lot more on the job. So that's kind of what I'm here for, is to give you that little bit of extra to help you when you're out there working as well as training. So I hope you stay with us and come see us each week for all these really cool lessons that we have. So hi, Marie. Hi. Hi, Sonia. Marie, happy Thursday to you too. I like that. Happy Thursday to you too. Hello, Sonia. Welcome. Jennifer, hey, it's good to see you too. Jennifer is one of our frequent, one of my regulars. I love to see my regulars. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. So I know we've got a lot of people on today, so just give me a hi or a hello or something in the chat. If you've got any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We will get to those questions in just a little while. So let's see here. Where am I? Oh, hey, Debbie. Nice to see you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into today's lesson, and today is all about nutrition basics. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm struggling with this one myself. I'm not going to, kind of go into personal struggles, but this is going to affect how you care for your patients. Your relationship with food will affect your relationship with your patients and food. So this is something that I'm currently kind of working on myself, but I need to kind of lead you to, instead of thinking about nutrition as what you eat and drink and focus on and enjoy, I want to kind of give you a nutrition information more based on the patient and some things that you would see in patient care that wouldn't really be relevant to you personally. So we're going to focus on how nutrition is different for patients and the role nutrition plays in overall wellness and health and recovery. So let's see here. Jennifer says, I'm confused what the word acute means. My CNA instructor, when I asked in the class, just said that it means quick. Is that quick, meaning a sickness that comes on quick and goes? And okay, so Jennifer, I'll get to that at the end of today's lesson. So stick around. We'll talk about acute, but I will definitely get to that. Acute and acuity. She's asking about the difference between the two. And Jennifer Lynn says, hello from Florida. Your videos have been so helpful. My exam is in a few weeks. Oh, well, we're going to send you good vibes out, Jennifer Lynn. We know you'll do fantastic. I don't know when your exam is, but starting on September 11th, I am starting a new classroom, and I always live stream that. So if you found us here on YouTube, you can actually sit in on my live classroom classes on YouTube as well for free. So feel free to join in on the class that starts on the 11th and take a look at how I'm going to present the information. All right, so let's get into nutrition today. Oh, good. You got plenty of time. You definitely want to join my live stream then. All right, so overview. Nutrition, and we all know this, right? We learned this in 5th grade, right? Nutrition affects health. We got it. We understand that. But when we start talking about nutrition in relationship to patients, things are a little bit different because in patient world, we have special diets. We also have to look at supplements. There can be liquid diets. We can be having to thicken liquids. What are the things that we need to consider as CNAs regarding the health and nutrition of the patients that we care for? And that's kind of what I want to dive into a little bit today. So what you eat really does affect how your body works. And I'm going to give you a very real example of this. This is something that most of you guys are somewhat familiar with, right? So last Sunday, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but last Sunday, all of the movie theaters had a movie Sunday or theater Sunday or something. I don't remember what the name of the promotion was, but basically all the movie theaters were like $4 that day. So any movie, anytime, $4. They're trying to entice people to, come to the movies, right? Well, that's a great deal because ticket prices have everything's gone up, hasn't it? Everything is so expensive now. And ticket prices, of course, have gone up too. But I don't know about you. If I'm going to a movie theater, which I don't do very often anymore, but if I'm going to a movie theater, I have to have popcorn, right? There's nothing like movie theater popcorn. Lots of butter, lots of salt, sit in the dark theater, munch on the popcorn. But do you know what that does when you eat a lot of popcorn? It makes you thirsty, doesn't it? So you end up with a large soda because you know that popcorn's going to make you thirsty. You're going to be drinking a whole lot. Well, let's talk about why. Why does that popcorn make you thirsty? And it's because of the salt, the sodium specifically. Okay. So salt is kind of we think of salt, right? The table salt, and that's what we call it, is salt, but really it's sodium. So when you take in sodium has a very specific effect inside the body. Anywhere sodium goes, water follows. So think of water like a younger sibling that won't leave you alone, that just follows you from room to room. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? That's the role that water plays with sodium. So when you take in a lot of salt, like with popcorn, you eat the popcorn covered in salt, your body has to push fluid along with that sodium. So you can't just eat a lot of salt and not get thirsty, because your body is going to run out of fluid to push with that sodium. So it's asking you for more. That's why you get thirsty, right? Well, if we have all this excess fluid now, so we ate sodium, it made us thirsty. We drank liquid to help dilute it, because remember, water always follows sodium. Now your blood vessels that were about this big around and the blood just kind of floating through, no big deal. Now all of a sudden it's got a tidal wave. So I don't know if you guys know where I live. So I live just north of Tampa, and we had a hurricane go through yesterday morning. And the county right above me, Crystal River, actually made national news. That's actually the town I grew up in. I went to Crystal River High School. So I'm very, very familiar with this. The whole middle of the town flooded. I mean, it made national news, right? It flooded. So you couldn't drive on the roads because they were flooded. Well, this is what happens inside the arteries when you eat a lot of salt, right? We have a salt, water's flowing through it just fine. You know, blood's flowing through it just fine. And then we push in sodium. Now, anytime we have sodium, you know, because we ate that popcorn, anytime we have sodium, water is going to follow. So now where you had water, you know, out in the tissues a little bit, you know, in the blood vessels where it belongs, you know, just kind of a little bit of water in your body. Now, all of a sudden, we had to bring in a whole lot of extra fluid, and it doesn't really have a whole lot of places it can go. So it's going to end up in your blood vessels, and that is going to increase the pressure inside your blood vessels. So you got a whole lot more liquid in there, and that raises your blood pressure, because blood pressure is the amount of pressure inside your arteries, right? Amount of fluid inside the arteries when the heart beats and in between beats. So when you have a patient that takes in a lot of sodium, water is going to follow. And what is that going to do to their blood pressure? Well, it's probably going to raise it a little bit. In some cases, it can raise it a lot. Now, the body, for some reason, doesn't really like to get rid of sodium all that well. It can excrete it through the urine. It can, but it doesn't really like to. Now, when you sweat, you end up with sodium. You know your sweat is salty, right? So you do excrete it out from the skin with sweat as well. But for the most part, when you take in sodium, the body really kind of has to work hard to get rid of it. So you're kind of stuck with it. Remember, sodium's annoying little brother is water. So anytime you have sodium and we can't really get rid of it real well, you're going to end up with excess water, and that is going to raise the fluid level in your bloodstream, which gives you a higher chance of higher blood pressure. But it doesn't stop there. Sodium does a lot of different things in the body, and electrolyte imbalances are very, very detrimental to the body. So when we have a lot of excess sodium on board, it can affect a lot of your organs as well. So if we have a patient that has maybe an aneurysm and we don't want the blood pressure high, or maybe they have congestive heart failure and their heart is having a hard time pushing around excess fluid, we don't want a lot of fluid in the blood vessels in these two situations. It's just no good for our patient. It can cause a lot of complications. So this patient might be on a low sodium diet because our body really does depend on what we eat to function properly. And that goes way beyond nutrition. Okay, does that kind of make sense? So what we eat actually affects how our body works. If our kidneys aren't working real well, we probably don't want a lot of protein on board because protein is filtered through the kidneys and it can actually kind of punch holes through the delicate structures of the kidneys and cause a lot of problems. So your patient with advanced renal failure may be on a low protein diet. We may have somebody that doesn't process, let's say that they have a PKU, which is phenylketonuria, and they don't process protein very well. So they may be on a no protein diet because they just don't have the enzyme to process certain proteins. So there's a lot of conditions that would cause us to change the diet of the patient. Small changes can have big effects. Even just a couple of handfuls of popcorn is going to cause you to drink a little bit more because it's going to make you thirsty. You don't have to finish the whole bag. Small things can have a big effect in the body, and we have to keep that in mind, especially when your patients are like sneaking M&Ms. Small changes can have big effects in the body. But here's the problem, right? Ultimately, you are the one that controls what goes into your mouth. I am too. Right? If I want to go out right now and grab a cookie off of my counter, my little cookie dish, I can go grab a cookie, even though I know I shouldn't. I know that I should be more mindful of what I eat. Ultimately, I'm an adult. And if I want to go grab a cookie, I'm going to go grab a cookie. It's my life, my choice. Now, unfortunately, when we get into healthcare, we seem to forget this, right? How far do you think I would get if I went to the local burger place down the road and stood in the drive-thru, and every person that came along, I said, you are not allowed to order fries or a soda or a big burger. That's like your entire calorie count for the day. You cannot have that. That is absolutely unhealthy for you. The only thing I'm going to let you order from here is a salad with low-fat dressing and water, and that is it. Right? I would get run over by the second car because I'm an adult. Don't try to tell me what I can and cannot eat. That's just not going to go anywhere. Now, I can tell them, I can give them information. I can educate them on the sodium content on that Dr. Pepper that they're about to drink. I can give them information, but ultimately it's going to be up to them to decide what to eat because they are adults. And nobody has the right to restrict another adult's action. But actions have consequences, right? So the consequences are going to be on that patient. If they decide to eat something they shouldn't, they're going to deal with the consequences of that decision, but it is ultimately that decision. Now, somehow, when we get into healthcare, we forget that. We want to make our own decisions for our lives, but we don't want our patients to have that same right. And that doesn't work. Patients have rights. They have the right to make their own decisions, even about what they eat, even if it's the wrong decision. Now, like I said, we can help with this. We can educate. We can encourage, but we can't control another human. And the sooner that you realize that, the easier your life is going to be. But when we have a patient that's on a special diet, now, first thing you need to understand is that diets are ordered by the doctor, right? You don't have any say in this. The diet is ordered by the doctor, and there's going to be some special diets. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. But if your patient is on a special diet and that's ordered by the doctor, we are going to do our best to comply with that because it's a doctor's order. Now, if the patient doesn't comply, we simply tell the nurse. That's our job. We observe and report. So if the patient is on a low sodium diet, and you walk in the room and they're munching on a bag of Doritos, well, Doritos are not low sodium. You would not grab those Doritos out of the patient's hand and scold them and punish them and throw the Doritos away. That's not your job. Your job is to let the nurse know, hey, Martha's got a bag of Doritos and she's a low sodium diet. And then the nurse's responsibility is to educate the patient and explain what the consequences may be for that action. But CNAs do not punish. So the diet is going to be determined by the doctor based on the condition of the patient and what the recommendations are. And there's lots of dietary modifications that can be made. But remember that we encourage, we don't punish. So here's some therapeutic diets that you might see. ADA diets are probably the most common. This is the American Diabetes Association. That's what ADA stands for, ADA. And it's usually followed by a number like ADA 1200, ADA 1500, ADA 1800, and sometimes you'll see an ADA 2000 or 2100, depending on the doctor. Now, what that number is the amount of calories the patient should consume with this diet. So if you've got a patient on an ADA 1500 diet, a dietitian at the facility is going to plan out all of their meals, making sure that they meet the right dietary milestones and it doesn't exceed 1500 calories. Now, usually, this is super important, guys, super important. Usually, if your patient is on an ADA calorie controlled diet, like ADA 1500, ADA 1800, then that means that their blood sugar is going to be monitored based on the diet because we have a cause and effect. Remember, what you eat is going to affect your overall health. So keep that in mind, okay? So if your patient's blood sugar is being monitored, then chances are, right, they have diabetes. We're doing finger sticks or a continuous blood glucose monitor, but their blood sugar levels are being monitored. It also may mean that they're receiving medication based on those readings, okay? So this is actually kind of a really big deal. So if you've got a patient who is on an ADA 1500 calorie diet, and their family is bringing in Wendy's and they're eating a single with everything, thing of fries and a full soda, and they're on an ADA 1500 calorie diet. Well, there's their 1500 calories right there. They just, their entire day's allotment was taken up by that one meal. But that doesn't mean we're going to starve them for the rest of the day, but it may affect their blood sugar because this 1500 is actually portioned out throughout the day between meals and snacks to keep their blood sugar at a very consistent level based on the medication that we're giving them. When they dump in a lot of extra calories that we weren't anticipating, that's going to affect the medications that they may need. So if you see that, you've got to say something. You've got to let the nurse know, hey, Martha just ate a whole Wendy's meal, right? You got to let the nurse know because their blood sugar may be affected by that action. Again, we're not going to punish, but we do want to educate. We've got to explain the effects of this on the patient. Now, there's some other diets that you may see. So things like low sodium or no added salt, right? That means that we're not using a lot of canned vegetables that have high sodium concentration. We're not putting salt on the tray. We're being careful with our seasonings. No concentrated sweets. Well, that one pretty much speaks for itself. No sugar packets, no candies, no sodas, nothing concentrated, but we're not really restricting their carbohydrate intake with their normal meals. Low protein or renal diet. This is usually for advanced kidney disease, or if our patient has an enzyme deficiency that would affect their ability to process proteins. And then low fat, low cholesterol, which is just a general good heart healthy diet, right? Being mindful of the amount of fats that you take in. Those are different types of diets that you may see. Now, remember, as a CNA, our job is to comply with the doctor's orders. So if your patient is on one of these diets, it's up to you to make sure that they're getting the right items. So paying attention to that food tray, the label on the food tray is super important. If you have Martha's tray and you've got Bobby's tray and you switch those up and you give Martha Bobby's tray and Bobby Martha's tray, and they have two different diets, that can be problematic for our patients. So you've got to pay really close attention when you're passing out those food trays. It's not one tray fits all. It doesn't work like that. You've got to make sure the right patient gets the right tray at the right time to make sure that their blood sugar levels remain stable, or their fluid levels remain stable, or their protein levels are not overwhelming, or whatever the case may be. Now, we also have supplements that show up on some diet orders as well. This is if we have somebody who's not a good eater, and that's very common in elderly patients, especially elderly patients that are in facilities, because depression is a very real thing. You've got all these plans for when you grow older and you retire, and you're probably thinking about things like, I'm not going to have to work, I'm going to travel the world, I'm going to spend time with my family, I'm finally going to take up crocheting or whatever craft it is that you want to try, right? You kind of have these ideas of how you want your retirement years to be, and they're probably wonderful plans. The reality is that by the time you get to that point, usually your body is not cooperating. So you have all these plans, but you don't have a body that's able to do those things. And if that situation has made you leave your home and go to a facility, man, your life is not what you thought it was going to be. And that can be very depressing. It's even more depressing if all your friends have died and your family doesn't visit, and the food in this place is awful and I have no friends and everybody treats me like I'm an imposition. I mean, depression is very real when we get, this is one of the topics I'm going to cover later on this year, but it's very real. Depression in the elderly is very real, especially those that are in a facility. So a lot of times you'll see an order for liquid shakes, supplemental shakes. And we really want to encourage that, because that tells us the patient is not eating very well. Their weight's probably dropping. And that means that they're, unfortunately, their energy level is going to be affected. Their overall wellness is going to be affected. So if somebody has an order for shakes, give them some encouragement. Spend a little time with them too, because that little extra touch can go a long way. Emotions are tied to nutrition in a very real way, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. Nourishments are snacks between meals, and this is especially important with our diabetic patients because we really want that nice steady blood sugar all the way throughout the day. And then an HS snack just means a snack before bed, and again, we're trying to maintain that blood sugar level. Liquid diets are often prescribed, especially before or after surgery, or if the patient has a condition where they just can't really tolerate food. So there's a couple of different types of liquid diet. The most extreme is ice chips or sips of water. That means they're not getting anything of any nutritional value. It's just ice chips to kind of wet the inside of their mouth. And sips of water, nothing significant. We don't want water in the system. Again, we're just trying to wet those membranes. Clear liquids is a step up. When you graduate from ice chips to clear liquids, a lot of patients are going to celebrate. Doesn't seem like something we're celebrating, but it is. Clear liquids is anything you can see through, like water is a clear liquid, but they've already been on water. They don't want water anymore. They want something with a little more flavor to it, please. So Jell-O would be a clear liquid. So would juices that don't have pulp in them, like apple juice, cranberry juice. You also, clear liquids could be coffee or tea, broth, that type of thing. Anything that you can see through. And Jell-O is actually, even though it's still kind of a little bit solid, Jell-O is actually often allowed on a clear liquid diet. Now, full liquid goes a step further. Full liquid says we don't need to see through it anymore. Still nothing solid there, but if we can add in creamy stuff. So like creamy soups, even ice cream is considered a full liquid because if you leave it on the table long enough, it becomes a liquid. So milk, chocolate milk, those types of things become full liquid. So your patients may have an order for a specific type of liquid diet. Now, there's another type of order that we might get with patients with liquids, and that's thickened liquids. So, okay, that's a good question, Jennifer. I don't understand how coffee is a clear liquid. You can't see through coffee. Well, you can't see through coffee because it's dark, not because it's thick, right? There's a difference there. So coffee, you actually can see through coffee because you're not adding cream or sugar or anything. If you hold it up to the light, you actually can see through it. It's just dark, not thick. That's the difference, okay? So thickened liquids is when we're intentionally thickening liquids that don't normally come thick. So things like water, we can thicken water. We can thicken juice. We can thicken pretty much any type of liquid, coffee, tea, broth, soup. We can add an agent called a thickener, and that thickens that liquid. Now we use this specifically when we have patients with swallowing problems. Now, somebody may have a swallowing problem because they've had a stroke. They might have a swallowing problem because they've had surgery in the area. They may have a swallowing problem because of a neurological condition that just has weakened the nerves and the muscles along the esophagus. There's a lot of reasons why somebody might have a swallowing problem. Age actually contributes to this. So some of our patients are going to have an order where we have to thicken their liquids. And this can actually be done by a CNA. It's often done by CNAs. And it's this can of thickener. And we just put thickener into whatever liquid the patient is going to drink and stir it up. And there's three basic consistencies that we're looking at here. There's nectar thick, which means that if you try to pour it, it will pour, but it takes a few seconds, right, to pour. There's honey thick, which means it more like globs and drips, right? It's a little bit slower. And then there's pudding thick, where you can turn it upside down and it's not even leaving the spoon. So think of this as light, medium, and strong. So you need to know if we're going to be thickening a patient's liquids, what consistency are we looking for here? Nectar thick, honey thick, pudding thick. And that's going to be determined by how many scoops of the thickener that you put into the liquid. Thickeners, by the way, do not really change the taste, or they're not supposed to change the taste, but they do change the texture. And we expect a certain texture to water. And when you add thickener to it and it affects the texture, it just it's just a little weird. So your patients may not drink as much. They may not drink as well. So they may require a little bit of encouragement when they have their liquids thickened. So what do we really need to know here as CNAs? Well, the first thing that you need to understand is that nutrition affects health. So we want to make sure we're giving the right tray to the right patient every single time. That if the patient is on a low sodium diet and you're helping them select a snack, you want to direct them to things that don't have a high sodium content. So if they have a choice between pretzels and Jell-O would be a better option. So we want to help them make those good choices. We want to observe what they're eating. Remember, you're in the room a whole lot more than the nurse. If they're cheating, you're probably going to see it or see evidence of it. You need to report that to the nurse, because if the nurse gets a high blood sugar reading the next time around, and they don't know that the patient just ate, a half a box of donuts, they may think that something metabolically is going on with the patient and we're off on a hunt that doesn't need to happen, right? So report everything that you notice. You want to make sure that you're recording the intake accurately. And this is really going to be important with your diabetic patients more than anybody else, but it also affects your patients with congestive heart failure, with pneumonia, with kidney disease. You really want to make sure that we're being accurate with those intake and output measurements so that if something should come up later, the nurse kind of knows where the culprit is. Stay in contact with your nurses and make sure that they know everything that you know. So you want to make sure you're reporting all observations to the RN. But you also want to make sure that we're encouraging appropriate intake. So if you catch your patient with a bag of M&Ms underneath their pillow, this is not the time to try to punish them or scold them or be difficult or put them in a wheelchair and put them out by the nurse's station because you can't trust them. I've seen it. I've heard it. I know CNAs do it. Guys, they're adults. They are adults. They have the right. You don't always make all the right choices for yourself all the time. That's a very, very difficult line to walk. Now, there are some people that do great at that with nutrition. They get all of their water. They only eat a well-balanced meal full of fruits and vegetables, and they limit their fat intake, and they do all the right things. And great, I'm thrilled for them. But even though they're making all those right choices, somewhere in their life, they're making a choice that probably isn't the right choice, right? So that person may eat perfectly, exactly the way they're supposed to, not a calorie more than they need, and yet they're speeding when they're driving, right? We, as humans, don't do the right thing all the time in every situation, and we need to understand that our patients are human, just like we are. So we've got to give them a little bit of latitude here. Now, what we can do, though, is encourage. So we can say, hey, Henry, it's snack time. I've got some Jell-O here that would be really good for keeping your sodium level low, right? Or do you really want those potato chips? You know that that's going to raise your blood pressure a little bit later, and that could have an effect on you. We want to be encouraging and helping them make the best choices for them. But we also want to understand our role, and our role is not to discipline. It's not to lecture or scold. It's to empower them and encourage them and help them. It's also to report everything that we know to the nurse. Hey, I tried to get her not to choose the chips. She chose the chips, right? So we have to understand our role here. And then the nurse's role is to help make sure they're educating the patient and monitoring for any signs of complications later on based on what is going on with that patient. So remember that helping isn't helping if it doesn't help, right? If it doesn't help, it's not helping. Patients aren't prisoners. And this is something that comes up a lot with CNAs. So CNAs often treat patients like they're prisoners. You're in my facility, you have to do what I say. And it doesn't work like that. Help isn't help if it doesn't help. So we want to make sure that we're on the right side of this equation. We want to make sure that we're encouraging. But we also need to understand that eating is often emotional. You can eat out of anger. You can eat out of depression. You can eat out of happiness. You can eat out of boredom. You can eat if your brain is so tangled up that it just can't focus on anything. Eating can be a comfort for that. It's a concrete action that your body can take when your mind is all over the place. Not eating can be an emotional reaction. You can not eat if you're angry. You can not eat if you're sad. You can not eat in a lot of different emotional states. So we have to understand that emotions are tied to eating in a very, very big way. And that doesn't stop once you get out of adolescence. This is a lifelong thing. Patients often will eat according to their emotional state. Well, if they're stuck in a facility and this isn't what they had planned for their final years, and they can't travel, and they can't get their health under control, and they can't see their family, and they had to sell their house to afford this health care. All of those things are going to play a part in how they're going to see food. If they are an emotional eater, they're probably going to eat more, and they're probably going to eat the wrong things. If they're an emotional non-eater, you may have to really encourage them to eat. You may have to provide supplements and sit with them and have a conversation and try to really encourage them. So remember that our job is to explain, encourage, and endorse good behavior. It is not to punish, restrict, or scold or discipline bad behavior. We have to understand that healthy habits are hard. They're hard. If everybody made the right choice every day in everything, we would have a utopia society. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen with food. It doesn't happen with driving. Have you driven lately? There's people out there. I feel like I'm on, Mad Max. It doesn't happen with driving. It doesn't even happen in your own household. Not everybody makes the right decisions all the time. And putting that expectation on your patients is going to lead to frustration for you. And it's going to lead to a lot of resentment in your patients. So do yourself a favor. Don't put your patient in that position. Remember, adults are not children. We are not trying to teach them healthy habits. That ship has sailed long time ago. We are not trying to change their habits. What we're trying to do is encourage cultivating better ones. But do you know how long it takes to develop a good, healthy habit? It used to be, years ago, they used to say it took 3 weeks of consistently doing something to develop a healthy habit. 3 weeks of consistently doing the same thing all the time to develop a healthy habit. That's what they used to say. And I used to think, oh my gosh, 3 weeks, that is a long time to do the same thing over and over and over again. Well, the latest research is actually more like, get this, 24 to 36 months for it to become a habit that you don't think about. 24 to 36, I thought 3 weeks was long, right? 2 to 3 years of doing the same thing over and over and over and over again for it no longer being a conscious decision to make it into a habit you don't think about. 2 to 3 years. That is a tremendous amount of time, people. Do not think that your patient that is in this facility who's been here for 3 weeks is all of a sudden going to get on the program. Remember, they got a lot of emotions going on too. And if they're an emotional eater, that's going to affect this as well. So we have to have very realistic mindsets here. We can encourage, we can empathize, we can endorse good behavior, we can explain why this is better than that, but we have to be realistic here, okay? And if you're not realistic, if you're really giving your patient a hard time, then they're going to be resentful of you. They're going to be resentful, and we really, really don't want to put our patients in that mindset, right? All right, so remember that you hold the key here, okay? Patients are dependent. Guys, if your patient was independent, they would be at home. They would not be here. They would not need our help. So our patient, just by being here, is dependent. Now, they may have mobility problems, which means they can't get to the kitchen to get water when they're thirsty. They have to rely on you for that. They may have mobility issues like with their hands where they can't open juice containers, or they can't open a coffee creamer and pour it in, or they can't tear the sugar packet for their coffee. They may be dependent on you for small actions. And to you, that may be a small thing, and it may be more or less an inconvenience to you because I've got bigger things to do. But to them, that's not a small thing. So remember that patients are dependent. That's their whole deal. If they were independent, they wouldn't be here. So we've got to make sure that we're checking our reaction and our response to this, right? They may have physiological problems that make it difficult to swallow, which would make it hard to eat or drink. They may have memory problems that make it difficult for them to understand what a spoon is and what it does and how do you use it. So the point is that our patients are not independent functional adults. They need our help. So we really have to understand the help that we're giving and how it's going to affect them to make sure that help truly is help, right? So remember that CNAs do hold the key to nutritional health for your patients. So understanding this is actually pretty important to providing good quality care for your patients. It goes beyond just making sure that you got the right tray to the right patient. There's a little bit more to it, like here. Okay, so Jennifer's got some questions. Let's get to those questions here. So clear liquid means nothing is added to it. That's what it means. No, clear liquid means something you can see through, something that is not thick. Okay, it's in its liquid state. It can be colored, but it is clear. It is not thick. Like if you held up cream of tomato soup, that's thick. If you held up tomato juice, if you just poured the juice out of a can of tomatoes and held it up, even though it's red, it's thinner, right? It's not thick. Cream of tomato soup is thick. You can't see through it. Tomato juice that's poured right out of the can is red. It may be hard to see through because it's red, but it's not thick. Okay. So, cream that you put in your coffee, that's thick. Coffee itself, even though it's dark, is not thick. Okay. I hope that helps. Let's see here. Yes. I think clear. Yes. Is if you can see through to the other side, that is correct. But you're talking, I think that you're actually talking about color as well. Color doesn't enter into, if you took the color out of it, would you be able to see through it? Okay. So think of it that way. If you take the color out, would you be able to see through it? It's not dependent on color. Okay. It's thickness. All right, so let's go back up here. And Jennifer asked, what does acute mean? And what is the difference between acute and acuity? All right, so acute means short-term, immediate onset. So if you fall and break your hip, that hip fracture is an acute injury, short-term, immediate, right? Immediate action. Hospitals generally deal with acute patients, problems that are occurring right now that have a negative impact. Okay, so right now problems. Acute is a right now problem. Now, have that same person, right? Same person broke their hip. When they break their hip, that's an acute injury. When they have surgery and they are right after surgery, that is the acute recovery stage, right? They just had surgery a day or two. We're making sure that everything is normalized. They're not having any swelling, no allergic reaction, no infection is setting in. The blood pressure is stable. Everything is going okay. Now they're going to go off to a rehab center who is going to deal with what we call intermediary, which is we are trying to get that rehabilitation, trying to restore them to their highest level of function. Okay, but let's say that rehab isn't going well. The patient isn't really participating in rehab. And after about 3 months, rehab is going to discharge them somewhere else, home, nursing home, somewhere else, because you can't stay in rehab forever. And if they can't, if they didn't make good progress in rehab, now they have a chronic problem. Chronic is long-term. It's just there. We're going to manage it as well as we can, but the problem is going to persist. Chronic. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that they may not develop an acute problem with that hip later on that sends them back to the hospital, right? Acute, short term, immediate, right now problem that has a negative consequence that needs to be addressed. Rehabilitation is restoring a patient to the highest level of function possible. And chronic means it is a known problem that is likely to persist and need to be managed. Those are the three terms. Now, acuity is how involved your patients are when you're working in healthcare. So if you have that same hip patient prior to surgery, so brand new hip fracture, grandma just came in the door, we've got her up in a room, she's waiting for surgery, that is an acute problem. But she's going to need help with everything because she can't get out of bed. She's in a lot of pain. We got to deal with her toileting. We're going to have to bring her food. We're going to have to answer her call light. We're going to have to manage her pain, all of those things before surgery. She is high acuity. She's going to require a lot of care and a lot of monitoring. Now, after she has the surgery, right before she goes to rehab, her acuity is a little bit lower, because she's had the surgery, physical therapy's gotten her up and walking her. She isn't going to need as much pain management. She can feed herself. We can probably get her to the toilet much easier, right? So she's progressed. Her acuity is lower. She's going to require less care from us. So acuity is how much care does our patient need at any given time? How involved are they? Okay. So one other question, I'm still confused about bacteria. Does it like warm and light or cool and dark? Actually, neither. It's warm, dark, and moist. Warm, dark, and moist is what we're looking, those are the environments we're looking for that tend to breed pathogens. Warm, dark, and moist. So think under your sink, right? Under your kitchen sink is warm because you have hot water from the dishwasher or the sink, right? It's warm. You also have dark because there's no lights under there. And you often have moist because sometimes there can be little leaks coming in. You have the steam from the dishwasher. So warm, dark, and moist. If you're going to have mold growing in your house, it's probably going to be under a sink, right? Warm, dark, and moist. Now, that doesn't mean that every bacteria in the world needs those conditions. It's just the majority of the bacteria. These are environments that we want to look for that could be potentially hazardous, could grow something that's bad for our patients. But that doesn't mean that that's one size fits all, right? So warm, dark, and moist. So Vanessa, hi, I am doing fantastic today. And apparently I'm close to Jennifer. Hi, Melissa. Let's see here. Yeah, so Jennifer says, oh, it's the thickness. Got it. All right, good job. Okay, so any other questions? Because I'm going to run right into, I know we're running late, guys. I'm going to run right into those that passed the exam. Super, super exciting. All right, so today I only have one person. I only have one person to congratulate, and that is going to be Trice's 1768. So only one person came by this week and told me that they passed the state exam. So if you have tested recently and you want a shout out on Thursday, make sure you go to my YouTube channel, leave me a fresh comment on any one of my videos, not a reply to somebody else. It's got to be a fresh comment for me to see. Leave a comment on any one of my videos. Let me know that you passed or that you're testing soon. And we'll be happy to congratulate you on an upcoming episode or wish you lots of luck, just like Anna Clark 8681, who's going to be testing soon. So we also have Jennifer Lynn, who is going to be testing at the end of the month as well. So we'd love to send out some good vibes to you or to congratulate you when you pass. Just stop by our YouTube channel, leave a message on any one of our videos. We'll be happy to send that to you. So good luck to you, Ann Clark, and good luck to you, Jennifer Lynn, as well. So for those of you who are new, who didn't know, we actually hit 30 million views on our YouTube channel. So we're really, really excited about that. Really excited. So let's see here. Hold on. We've got another question. Okay, Matt says, please tell me about H. pylori. Well, unfortunately, I don't have enough time to get into that now, but I'll put that on my list of conditions. Remember, the first Thursday of every month, we're going to be talking about some sort of condition. So I'll put that on as a potential topic. And Jennifer says, so acute is how fast something comes on, not how long it takes to recover from. It's not, so I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. Acute is an immediate problem, immediate, needs addressed right now. It's not really how fast it comes on. It's not really how long it takes to resolve. It's a problem I have to deal with right now. So let me give you a little bit more real world example. This might be helpful. Okay. You have an electric bill. It comes in the mail. You know that you're going to have to pay it, right? So the electric bill comes and you put it on your table to pay it later, and then you forget. And your power goes out. Now you have an acute problem. You have no power. You need to get yourself to the electric company to pay that bill right now so that you can get your power back on, right? It is now that bill that came in the mail, that's a chronic thing. It happens over and over. Every month you have to pay your electric bill. That's a chronic thing. It's known, it's long-term. It shows up every month. You have to pay it every month. You know, paying it is not, it's a chronic thing, right? Long-term. When you don't pay your bill and your power gets shut off, now that long-term problem all of a sudden became an acute problem. You better deal with it right now to get power on so you can cook dinner, right? Once you pay that bill and your power comes back on, of course, they're going to give you an extra fee, aren't they? And that power comes back on, then it goes back to chronic. And now you just have to pay it every month just like you normally would. Does that make sense? So an acute means it's something that's got to be dealt with right now. We can't push it off till later. It's got to be addressed right now. Okay. All right. I hope that helps. All right. So Janice says, is the state exam something you can do online? Well, Janice, it really depends on what state you're in. This is one of those questions that requires a little bit of a caveat to it. In most states, the written test must be done at a testing center to make sure that test integrity is maintained. Okay, so test integrity. There are some states now that are allowing the written test to be done in your home or in your school, and it's monitored, which means that they have a monitoring solution. So probably somebody monitoring you through video, okay, to make sure that you're not cheating and that test integrity is maintained. You're not copying the questions or anything like that. So there are some states that are allowing the written test to be done remotely, but very, very few. And I don't know all of them off the top of my head. Okay. There are some states. Florida is not one of those. In Florida, you have to physically go to a testing center and take the written test in front of the proctors on site. And in most cases, you'll be taking the skills test in front of the RN evaluators as well. Now, interesting, Florida has just passed last month, where if you took a 120-hour program, you don't have to take the skills part of the exam anymore. So I'm kind of interested to see how that's going to play out. It's still new. We still don't know how all of that is going to work out yet, but it's kind of interesting. But most states do require that you go to a testing center to take that that test. So let's see here. Mark says, thank you. And Jennifer says, I learned a lot today. I appreciate you so much, Patty. Oh, thank you. I do love healthcare. I do too. Question, is the state exam something you can do online to get certified? No, in most states, you have to take both a skills and a written exam in front of an evaluator to get certified. So I hope that helps. All right, guys. So I am going to go ahead and sign off today. We've been here a whole hour today. Boy, does time fly. I love spending time with you guys. Remember, we got this new process coming up. We on Mondays, or I'm sorry, the first, I can't even talk. The first Thursday of every month, we're going to explore a condition. The second Thursday, we're going to explore a workplace. The third Thursday is all about the patient. And then the fourth Thursday is on nursing basics. We do have a couple of fifth Thursdays, although it's rare, and we'll have something special for those days. All right, so Tuesday, guys, coming up this Tuesday, I have our live game show coming up. So Tuesday at 11. Boy, I'm all over the place today. Tuesday at 11. So this next Tuesday coming up, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, for those of you who aren't in Florida time zone, Tuesday at 11, I'll have the live game show. And I'm going to present 15 questions. You will answer the questions, and the program I use keeps track of your answers, put you on a leaderboard, and I will be giving out prizes for the top 3 places on the game show when we do it live. And remember, the top prize is the card game. This is the CNA Principles card game. It's a lot of fun to play. I also have the badge holders, and we have bracelets and keychain, motivational keychains, all kinds of stuff that we give away, all kinds of free stuff. You should join us. It's a lot of fun. Great way to review for the state exam, and we'd love to see you there. So that's Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Thursday, I'll be live with you again on our live weekly Q&A session. And then the following Monday, I start class again on September 11th. So I hope you join me for that as well. So a lot of really good learning opportunities coming up, and we'd like to welcome you to all of them. So anything that we can do to help you on your journey, we're here for. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And until next time, guys, happy caregiving. Bye.